This case makes you doubt every smiling photograph, every loving gesture, and every quiet moment shared between two people. Because sometimes, the greatest danger isn't a stranger in the dark, it's the person who promises to love you forever. In the peaceful suburban landscape of Aurora, Colorado, the Craig family represented everything a community could admire. Angela Craig, a vibrant woman with a smile that could light up any room, was the center of their universe. At 47 years old, her life was rich with purpose, a mother of 6 remarkable children, a dedicated family history consultant, a passionate choir director at her local church, and a creative soul who found joy in woodworking and interior design. Her warmth wasn't just reserved for family. Friends described her as someone who would give her last dollar to a stranger in need. Beside her stood Dr. James Craig, successful, handsome, respected. A dental surgeon with his own practice, he'd built a professional life that appeared stable and prosperous. For 23 years, their marriage had produced a beautiful family, a lovely home, and all the outward trappings of the American dream. They were the couple others looked at and thought, they've made it. But beneath this gleaming surface, invisible currents were pulling their lives toward a catastrophic end. The unraveling began quietly, almost insignificantly, in early March of 2023. Angela started feeling unwell, persistent headaches that ordinary painkillers couldn't touch, sudden waves of dizziness that made standing difficult, and a nausea that seemed to have no cause. Concerned but not alarmed, she visited her doctor on March 6. The examination revealed nothing unusual. Her vital signs were normal, her blood work showed no red flags, and she was sent home with basic medication and instructions to rest. But rest didn't bring relief. The symptoms intensified. 3 days later, on March 9, the dizziness became so severe that Angela's family took her to the emergency room. Again, medical professionals conducted tests, blood panels, basic scans, neurological checks. Again, they found nothing conclusive. Her blood pressure was lower than normal, but not dangerously so. She was given intravenous fluids and monitored overnight, then released the following day with the same puzzling diagnosis, symptoms of unknown origin. What no one at the hospital knew, what Angela herself likely didn't suspect, was that during this exact period, her husband James was conducting his own disturbing research. From the computer in their comfortable home, he was entering search terms that told a very different story than the concerned spouse he presented at the hospital. He wasn't looking up symptoms or possible diagnoses. Instead, he was searching for something far more sinister. His digital footprint would later reveal searches for undetectable poisons, lethal doses of arsenic, and can poison be detected in an autopsy? He watched YouTube videos with titles like, Top 5 Poisons That Don't Show Signs of Murder, and studied the specific effects of cyanide and arsenic poisoning. Most damningly, he placed an online order for 99.9% pure crystalline arsenic, a substance whose product description explicitly warned that ingestion could be fatal. Meanwhile, Angela's body was fighting an invisible enemy. The mysterious illness wasn't receding, it was organizing, gathering strength for a final assault. On March 15, just 10 days after her first symptoms appeared, Angela collapsed at home. The headaches had become skull-splitting, the dizziness so profound she couldn't walk, and now violent stomach pains had joined the chorus of suffering. Unable to reach James at his dental clinic, she called her brother, who rushed her to the hospital for the 3rd time. This admission was different from the start. Medical staff immediately recognized something was critically wrong. Angela's condition deteriorated rapidly in the emergency room. Within hours, she suffered a massive seizure, her body convulsing uncontrollably as doctors fought to stabilize her. The medical team made the urgent decision to place her on a ventilator, as her own breathing became insufficient to sustain her. She was transferred to intensive care, where machines now performed the basic functions of life that her body could no longer manage. James arrived at the hospital, presenting the picture of a devastated husband. He stayed by her bedside, spoke with doctors, and updated concerned friends and family. To everyone observing, he was living every spouse's worst nightmare. But two people were beginning to see cracks in this performance: Ryan Redfern, James's longtime friend and dental practice partner, and his wife, who held a doctorate in nursing. The Redferns had known the Craigs for years. They'd socialized together, celebrated milestones, and when James's dental practice faced financial difficulties in 2021, Ryan had stepped in as a financial partner to help save the business. Now, as they watched Angela fight for her life with no medical explanation, Ryan's wife grew increasingly suspicious. The symptoms, the sudden onset, the neurological issues, the gastrointestinal distress, didn't fit any typical pattern she knew from her nursing training. She began quietly considering possibilities that doctors hadn't explored. A crucial break in the case came from an unexpected source: the dental office's relatively new manager, Caitlin. While Angela struggled in the hospital, Caitlin was wrestling with her own growing unease about something she'd witnessed at work. Several days earlier, on March 6th, she'd been working late when James unexpectedly arrived at the closed office. This was unusual in itself, but what struck Caitlin as particularly odd was his behavior. Instead of going to his private office, he went down the hall to use a computer in one of the examination rooms, a computer he never typically used. About 30 minutes after Caitlin left that evening, she received a text message from James. He mentioned he was expecting a personal package to be delivered to the office and gave specific instructions. She was to ensure it was received, and under no circumstances was anyone else to open it. He emphasized the need for confidentiality. The package arrived on March 13th. By accident or curiosity, another staff member opened it before Caitlin could intervene. When Caitlin went to reseal the box as James had instructed, she saw what was inside: a cylindrical container with a hazardous materials label clearly marked potassium cyanide. The sight stopped her cold. She knew enough about chemicals to understand cyanide wasn't a typical dental supply. Wrapping the container in brown paper, she handed it directly to James when he arrived. She noticed he left the office with it that day, taking it with him. As Angela's condition reached its critical point in the hospital, Caitlin's concern overcame her hesitation. She called Ryan Redfern and shared what she'd seen: the secretive package, the potassium cyanide, James's unusual behavior. Ryan, already troubled by his wife's suspicions, immediately recognized the horrifying significance. Potassium cyanide poisoning produces symptoms almost identical to what Angela was experiencing: headaches, dizziness, nausea, low blood pressure, seizures, and eventually cardiac arrest. Ryan and his wife drove to the hospital, their minds reeling. When they arrived, they found Angela on life support, with James maintaining his vigil. Seeing an opportunity while James stepped away to take a phone call, Ryan approached one of the ICU nurses. He shared his terrifying suspicion that Angela might have been poisoned, possibly with cyanide, and that her husband might be responsible. The nurse, though shocked, took the allegation seriously. She immediately ordered new toxicology tests specifically looking for poisons, and, following protocol for potential criminal situations, contacted hospital security, who in turn alerted the Aurora Police Department. The machinery of justice began turning alongside the medical machinery keeping Angela alive. Detectives arrived at the hospital to begin preliminary interviews. They spoke with James, who maintained his role as the grieving husband. They spoke with Ryan and Caitlin, who shared their disturbing discoveries. And they began the meticulous work of connecting digital dots. James's reaction to being confronted by Ryan revealed the first visible cracks in his facade. When Ryan directly asked him about the potassium cyanide, James didn't deny purchasing it. Instead, he offered an explanation that would become his defense: Angela had asked him to obtain it. He claimed she had been struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts for years, and that she wanted the cyanide to end her life. He presented himself as a reluctant accomplice to his wife's wishes, not as a murderer. But this story immediately raised questions. If Angela was suicidal, why had none of her 6 children, ranging from teenagers to young adults, noticed any signs of depression? When detectives interviewed them separately, all described their mother as happy, energetic, and fully engaged in their lives. There were no reports of previous suicide attempts, no history of mental health treatment, and no concerning behavior noted by her extensive network of friends or her close-knit siblings. The financial investigation revealed another layer of motive. James's dental practice, despite its respectable appearance, was drowning in debt, over $2 million owed to various creditors. Despite this staggering financial pressure, detectives discovered James had recently traveled to Las Vegas, where he'd gambled away thousands of dollars he arguably didn't have. Simultaneously, they learned Angela carried 3 separate life insurance policies, with total payouts that would significantly ease James's financial burdens. Then came the discovery that shifted the case from suspicion to near certainty: James's secret life. Through email records and flight bookings, detectives uncovered an ongoing affair with a woman named Karen, an orthodontist from Texas. Their correspondence was intimate and romantic. Karen had filed for divorce from her own husband in 2022, and her emails to James spoke of a future together. Most tellingly, James had booked round-trip flights for Karen to visit Colorado on March 16, the day after Angela was rushed to the hospital for the final time, and coincidentally, the same day the arsenic he'd ordered online was delivered to his home. The picture that emerged was chilling in its calculation. Here was a man with multiple powerful motives: financial desperation, a desire to be with another woman, and the substantial life insurance payouts awaiting Angela's death. Here was a man with the medical knowledge to understand poisons and their effects. And here was a man who had taken concrete steps to acquire not 1, but 2 lethal substances just weeks before his wife mysteriously fell ill. On March 18, 2023, with her family gathered around her, Angela Craig was declared brain dead. The woman who had filled rooms with laughter and music, who had dedicated her life to connecting families through genealogy, who had raised 6 children with love and devotion, was gone. In a final act of generosity that contrasted starkly with the selfishness that ended her life, her family honored her giving spirit by donating her organs, saving multiple other lives through her tragedy. The legal consequences moved with swift certainty. Just hours after Angela was removed from life support, James Craig was formally charged with first-degree murder. The following day, he was arrested at his home. At his initial court appearance, the once polished professional stood disheveled in an orange jail jumpsuit, handcuffed, as the judge read the charges: first-degree murder after deliberation and tampering with physical evidence. The judge set bail at $10 million, a recognition of both the severity of the crime and James's potential flight risk. In the aftermath, the true cost of James's actions became heartbreakingly clear. 6 children were left orphaned in the most brutal way imaginable, their mother dead, their father in jail accused of killing her. Angela's siblings stepped forward to care for them, making it clear in public statements that James's extended family should not be blamed for his monstrous choice. The community that had admired the Craig family now grappled with the cognitive dissonance of the perfect image versus the horrifying reality. Angela's obituary, published by her grieving family, made no mention of the tragedy. Instead, it celebrated the woman she truly was, a vibrant soul who found joy in simple things, who loved animals despite her allergies, who could craft beautiful furniture and trace family histories with equal skill, and whose laughter was a gift to all who heard it. They chose to remember her life, not the manner of her death. The trial of James Craig is pending, but the evidence assembled by prosecutors paints a devastating portrait of premeditation. The internet searches for undetectable poisons. The purchases of arsenic and cyanide. The secret affair and planned rendezvous. The enormous financial pressures and life insurance policies. The timing of Angela's illness coinciding perfectly with these preparations. It suggests a man who saw his wife not as a partner, but as an obstacle to be removed, a problem to be solved with cold, clinical efficiency. This case forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about human nature. It shows us how easily darkness can hide behind a smile, how calculation can masquerade as concern, and how the very institutions meant to protect us, marriage, medicine, trust, can be weaponized against us. Angela Craig's story is more than a true crime case, it's a cautionary tale about the fragility of our assumptions and the hidden realities that can exist alongside our most intimate relationships. For Winds of Thought, exploring these depths of human behavior isn't just about documenting crime, it's about understanding the complex, often contradictory nature of the human heart. It's about looking beyond the surface to ask the difficult questions. If this story has made you think, question, or see the world a little differently, then we've done our job. Please like this video, subscribe to Winds of Thought, and join us as we continue to explore the stories that challenge what we think we know about the people around us, and about ourselves.